Every year there's a team in the division that has your number. This year that team for the Athletics is the Seattle Mariners. So far in 2013, the M's have taken 6 of 9 from the green and gold, as Bob Melvin and the boys have been frustrated with the results. Today it doesn't get any easier for the A's as they face the Mariners' other ace, Hisashi Iwakuma, who's having an all-star caliber season. The Athletics will counter with Bartolo Colon as they look to get back to their winning ways and finish the homestand strong. It's the final game of the series, A's-Mariners, next. Absolutely gorgeous Sunday afternoon for baseball in Oakland, and the A's, well, they're trying to avoid being swept. Good pitching matchup. Iwakuma and Colon, a couple of guys who could very well be on the American League All-Star team. They certainly have pitched that well. And, of course, it's Father's Day. Not a bad idea. Play catch with Dad. That's what baseball is all about. It is also Hyundai Sunday here on Comcast Sportsnet California, brought to you by your Bay Area Hyundai dealers. Final game of the series. It's the A's and the Mariners coming up on Comcast Sportsnet California. Hey again, everybody. Welcome to Oakland A's baseball. Along with Ray Fosse, I'm Glenn Kuiper. Happy Father's Day.
Absolutely.
Well, we have one of the great pitching matchups, really, probably on the homestand, but one of the better ones this season, believe it or not. Bartolo Colon's going to pitch for the Athletics, and Ray, he's been pitching as well as any pitcher in the American League.
And he couldn't have a better guy taking the mound for the Athletics today, trying to avoid a sweep, as the Mariners have done an exceptional job in the first 2 games of the series. But he's won his last 5 starts, not 5 decisions. He is 5-0 with a win streak of 5 straight. The club is 10-3 when he takes the mound. Of course, he's throwing a few more sliders, a few more changeups, mixing the fastballs in, just pitching very well. Has very good numbers, about 16 wins against the Mariners in his career. Couldn't have a better guy on the mound for the A's today.
Well, yesterday the A's faced Felix Hernandez. Today, Hisashi Iwakuma. And Ray, you could make a strong point that those two guys may be the best 1-2 punch so far this year in the American League.
You know, they talk about wins. He has 7, but how about his ERA? 1.79. So Iwakuma following King Felix in the rotation. Outstanding. He has a very good fastball. And Chili Davis, the A's hitting coach, because he has defeated the A's twice already this season, he's trying to figure out some sort of a pattern. We'll see if he's figured that out and as he starts today. But he has a very good fastball. You see the breaking ball he likes to throw, but a great pitching matchup this afternoon.
So the A's hope to beat the guy with the second best ERA in the American League and get a little momentum going into the big 4-game series against the Rangers in Arlington starting tomorrow. Big day at the Coliseum, big crowd, and the giveaway today is the Grant Balfour Raging Gnome. Let's hope he gets in the game today. We'll be back.
is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Now's your chance to go big at Jack in the Box. Try Jack's Big Stack Burger. 2 jumbo beef patties stacked with onion rings, cheese, and pickles.
Bartolo Colon and the Athletics take the field here at the O.co Coliseum on a gorgeous day, and big crowd on hand to wrap up the series and wrap up the homestand. It's the Mariners and the Athletics. Here's the game time weather. It's presented by the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. Get to the beach. The admission-free boardwalk is now open daily. .65 degrees, so just about the right temperature. Lots of blue skies. And it is great to see another big crowd. So the attendance has been very good on this homestand with the Yankees, and now a very nice weekend of baseball against the Seattle Mariners, at least in the stands, not necessarily on the scoreboard, unfortunately, for the Athletics. Let's look at the lineup today for the Seattle Mariners. Endy Chavez in center, Nick Franklin at second, Seager at third, Morales is the DH. Then it's Ibanez, Morris, Bay. The impressive young catcher Mike Zunino hits eighth, and Brendan Ryan, the shortstop, hits ninth.
Special day for Bartolo Colon, not only pitching for the Athletics here at the Coliseum, but also his family. Mother, father, sister are in the house today to watch him. They go on to Seattle before heading back to the Dominican Republic. But 8-2, 5 consecutive wins for the veteran Bartolo Colon, and he'll try to continue his success against the Mariners, which he has had throughout his career.
Quick look at the A's defense as Smith in left, Crisp in center, Reddick in right, Donaldson, Rosales, Sogard, and Moss on the infield, with John Jaso doing the catching. So Endy Chavez is ready to step in the box. Bartolo Colon is ready to step on the rubber. And we're set to go. Colon kicks, in the first pitch of the ball game is a fastball in for a strike. So 107 first pitch. He's trying to avoid being swept. And there's a line drive, base hit, left center field. Endy Chavez, he waited to the second pitch of the game.
Well, the Mariners know that Bartolo Colon, of course, the scouting report and all the video, but he did take a first pitch, but another fastball outside part of the plate, and Chavez, who made a great throw yesterday at the plate, nailing Jed Lowry to right field before the grand slam, and leads off this afternoon. He's a veteran and not a bad guy to have leading off for you.
It's an eye black kind of day.
And how times have changed. We used to take the cork out of a Coke bottle or a wine bottle and burn the cork and apply it under your eyes.
You mean you didn't put your area code in your eye black?
No, or something else. But no, it was, you know, and the worst thing is when you start to perspire and then you got to wipe it off and it's all the way down your face. I think Bryce Harper does that intentionally.
I think he does, yeah. 0-2 the count to the switch hitter Nick Franklin.
This young man's done very well for Eric Wedge in the second spot of the batting order and makes contact, and that's what you want in a second place hitter, especially with the speed of Chavez at first base.
Fouls that one back.
I think as the case was yesterday with Felix Hernandez, and A.J. Griffin did a very good job except for one inning. And the same for Bartolo Colon today. There is a great pitch. Jaso, welcome back. You're going to get a chance to catch a lot, and there's your mask. At least that protected you. But John Jaso, with the right-handed pitchers that the A's will be facing next couple of weeks, should be behind the plate a lot.
Exmo brought to you by Cache Creek Casino Resort.
You know, when you're facing a very good pitcher, and a couple of weeks ago, the A's faced Chris Sale right here, and you know, you get the good pitching performance. King Felix yesterday did very well. Walked one batter, did not allow a run, 5 hits. The A's had an opportunity with a double, got him over to third base, but then a shallow fly ball to right field. The A's had the chance to score, did not. So Felix picked up the win without giving up a run yesterday.
0-2 pitches popped up left side of the diamond. And the shortstop Rosales grabs it. So that's out number one. It was all Felix Hernandez with one swing of the bat from Henry Blanco, but Hernandez was doing his thing yesterday.
5 strikeouts in the first couple of innings, 5 of the first 6 outs with just basic fastballs. And he would vary the fastball from 89 to about 95, and not bad when you can rear back and get a little bit extra. And they're still talking about the game yesterday. Blanco, closest to you. Of course, he was just signed by the Mariners. Kelly Shoppach, geez, if he'd been pitching yesterday or catching yesterday, might have been
still be playing.
Blanco got one fastball that he liked, pulled the hands in, shortest distance, right down the 330 line. Didn't hit it hard enough to hook it foul. Stayed right inside the line.
Well, the Mariners won 3-2 on Friday night, 4-0 yesterday. A one pitch to Seager is outside. Seattle comes in 31-38. They've won 4 out of 5 overall. They're 13-21 on the road this year, and they're on a road trip that will move on after this game. They will head to Anaheim to take on the Angels for 4 games: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, a lot of 4-game series starting tomorrow night, including the A's in Arlington. And then you go to the 2-game series. Come back home and have the Reds for 2. The Red Stockings, the Red Lakes, Cincinnati.
1-1 to Seager, 281 with 8 homers, 30 RBIs. Outside again, 2-1.
A lot of times Bartolo Colon in the first inning will try to establish the fastball inside to the lefties. See if he can get the movement, bringing it back over the plate. But right now, at least to Franklin and now Seager, and even Chavez, who singled, keeping everything away. Otero the other night, he did that, and they hit the ball to left field.
And that one's hit to right, and that's a base hit. Endy Chavez is going to stop at second as Reddick comes up throwing. Ball trickles away from Rosales. So a couple of hits here for Seattle in the first inning.
Got it off the end of the bat. And at that point, it looked like Chavez, with his speed, that he was going to go to third base. And kind of wish he would have, because Josh Reddick enjoys the challenge. And a nice bluff going around the bag. I don't know if he had any intention at all. Maybe by stumbling at second, slowed him down a bit. But I don't think too many are going to challenge Josh Reddick, especially a ball hit directly at it.
So here's the cleanup hitter, Kendrys Morales. Morales is 1 for 8 in this series and 1 for 11 in his career against Cologne. But he's dangerous as he skies one to pretty deep left center field. Coco Crisp has it, and Endy Chavez is going to tag up and go from second to third. So the Mariners will have runners at first and third, but now with 2 outs.
And just the thought of Josh Reddick preventing Chavez from going to third base, that saved a run right there. At least at this point, if the fly ball had been deep enough to score the runner from third base. But instead, Chavez was a second, did tag. Notice how quickly also that Coco Crisp got rid of the ball to get it back in, because he knew Seager was also going to think about tagging. So he got it in quickly, and just a quick release at least held Seager at first, where you have a force out as a possibility if it gets to that point with the tough Ibanez in.
And the first pitch is on the outside corner for a strike. Ibanez hitting .233 with 13 home runs. Got 3 hits in the series.
Well, he confirmed, Cap, yesterday what we were talking about on Friday, that he is trying to pull the ball.
Pops this one. Shallow left. Tough sun for everybody. Donaldson makes the catch. Side retired. So Cologne gets out of the jam, and the Mariners strand a pair in the top of the first. So Cespedes is going to DH today. Moss, Donaldson, Smith, Reddick, Rosales, and Sogard.
And Hisashi Iwakuma on the mound for the Mariners. Can you believe this? He has one loss. Guess who it was against? The Houston Astros. That's it. 7 wins, the 1 loss against the Astros, but he has been outstanding. The 179 earned run average, couple of wins against the Athletics. So the A's are trying to pin the second loss on the right-hander today, at least the Mariners. I don't think at this point they care who they give the loss to, as long as they get a win.
So Hisashi Iwakuma steps to the mound against Coco Crisp in the A's. So lots of good notes and numbers on this 32-year-old right-hander, Iwakuma. He's been very impressive. Coco slaps at the first one, fouls it into the second level.
Well, every time Coco does that, I think of Alfredo Griffin, a great shortstop, played for the A's and other clubs, but he was one of the best at slapping the ball kind of in the 5.5 hole. Third baseman in, shortstop deep, and yeah, that's good. Ichiro Ichiro been halfway to first.
Seager, the third baseman, in on the grass. Michael Morris, the first baseman, is playing back in a normal spot. Jaso to follow, and then Cespedes here in the bottom of the first. That one slapped foul again, and it's 1-2.
That's one of the things that the A's do well, and that's force a pitcher to throw strikes. Well, Iwakuma does in the 2 starts against the A's. 16 strikeouts, no walks in those 2. So he is around the plate, which at times is helpful, because if the hitters know that, Chili Davis has made sure they know that, going into the game, they can be prepared for seeing strikes.
His last 4 outings, he's gone 8 innings, 7 2/3, 8 innings, and 7 innings. Two terrific starts this year against the Athletics. So won them both.
88 pitches in the first, 95 the second, and although 6 and 7 innings, respectfully, just he's been good.
That one tapped toward the shortstop Ryan, and that's out number 1. Let's look at the defense for the Seattle Mariners. Abanez in left, Chavez in center, Bay in right, Seager and Ryan on the left side of the diamond, Franklin and Morris on the right side, with Mike Zunino doing the catching. So here's Jaso hitting .277 with a homer and 17 RBIs. First pitch is a breaking ball that's down.
I always look at these situations with Jaso facing his former team, pitchers that he caught. You like to think you know what they're going to do. They're also thinking the same thing that maybe he thinks. So it's back and forth, but you just have to try to see the ball and hit the ball.
I would say Iwakuma, I don't know that he necessarily has one pitch that stands out, but he's got 3 or 4 that are well above average.
Has a splitter, which a lot of Japanese-born pitchers will throw for his out pitch. But he's not overpowering, so he will utilize the off-speed pitches and really not give in. Yesterday, Felix Hernandez just challenged some of the hitters with the early strikeouts with the fastball, but he then went to the turbo sinker, change up that's thrown very hard.
And the count is 2-2. This was Iwakuma on the 10th of May against the Ace up at Safeco, and you just watch the pitches he's thrown. All have good downward movement. And when it was all said and done, no walks, 9 strikeouts in 7 innings by Iwakuma.
Well, big difference today is did not have Montero. See, I was all Montero helping him there in that game in Seattle. So maybe the rookie today. Although The two guys who have hurt the A's the most in this series, both catchers. Rookie hitting his first major league, and the veteran Blanco.
3-2 pitch, and Jaso holds up.
Try to sell it. Try to sell it, and he sold it. Because he went after the split. Iwakuma was not going to give in to him.
So here comes Cespedes.
Well, did he go? No, he did not. So he was right in selling it because he knew he didn't go.
So here's Cespedes, the DH this afternoon. Cespedes facing Iwakuma. And this is what Iwakuma has done lately. His last start, he gave up an unearned run. So he has not allowed an earned run in his last 29 innings. So a very good pitcher who's pitching great. There's a shot right field, base hit. Bay cuts it off, gets it back in quickly. Jaso stops at third, and the A's have first and third with one out.
Fastballs to Cespedes, and what a great job of going to the opposite field. Back-to-back fastballs. Look at the rotation. Exmo shows it perfectly. We'll get a chance to see a lot of these today, but you can see the mark on the bat where he hit the ball. That's why he hit it so hard, because he hit it on the sweet part of the bat. And the Exmo will show that. And of course, the bat speed of Cespedes sends Jaso to third easily. And something the Mariners could not do in the top half, the A's will try to accomplish in the bottom. Get a runner in from third.
So Moss steps in, and the first pitch, swing and a miss. 230 with 11 home runs, 33 RBIs for Moss. And he's 2 for 4 in this series. So the A's tried to get something going offensively. They've been in a little bit of an offensive funk. Remember, they scored a total of 3 runs in that 18-inning game. And then so far in this series, the first 2 games, a total of 2 runs.
That's why the A's and Mike Gallego tried to send Lowry yesterday on a shallow fly ball to right field, trying to get a run, especially against Phoenix.
0-2 pitch. Pop foul back. Good swing by Moss. So the A's are scuffling a little bit to score runs. The Texas Rangers are scuffling a lot to score runs, and they are losing again. That one bounced, and it's a stop. No, they called it. They called everybody out, and no run score.
Oh. That's why I was hoping he would stop.
Tried to beat the tag after Morris stepped on first. There was a little bit of a question of, was it a fair ball? But Morris picked it up, stepped on first, and then they got the tag before Jaso came in to score. And when it's all said and done, it's a double play.
That's why
So no score, top of the second, kind of a crazy play to end the bottom of the first, and we'll show that to you. And it looked like, Ray, from what we saw in the break, the A's should have scored a run, but it was a little bit of a base running, maybe two base running mistakes.
Yeah, they should have scored a run if things had gone the way I think the manager had hoped they would have gone.
Yeah, we'll show you what we're talking about, and I think you'll probably agree with us. So the A's, unfortunately, do not score. Morris, Bay, Zunino. Fastball is high, 1-1. 253 with 11 home runs and another good series for Mike Morris. He had the huge series to open up the year here with 4 home runs in 4 games, but not quite that spectacular first 2 games of this series, but he's done some damage.
I think just the mere fact that he's playing, considering he can barely walk, much less run. And he has been hitting off-speed pitches as he did yesterday. A changeup from Griffin, a curveball from Griffin. He's got the long swing. And I think he likes it here. 12 games, 4-7, hitting over 350.
Gets jammed there. Fists it foul. All right, here's the play, and Ray, I'll let you explain it.
Well, John Jaso coming down the line at that point, trotting. Then he realizes there's going to be a play at second. He tries to speed up. Cespedes,
and look how close.
Yeah, and it's very close. Cespedes, had he stopped halfway, I think the shocking thing to me was that Morris threw to second instead of throwing home, because Jaso was coming down the line. He figured the ball was hit slowly. Tag first, maybe couldn't get a double play, so throw home to try to get Jaso, the lead runner, but he immediately threw to second. But I mean, how many times do you see that the runner at third just basically assumes it's not going to be a play, and as it turned out, starting halfway, he couldn't get it.
And Reddick cannot quite get this one. So that's a leadoff single. Let's watch it one more time. And the point we're making is Cespedes should have stopped. And Jaso, if Jaso is running hard, he scores pretty easily, actually.
But there's a tag at first, and then the throw to second. And really, all Cespedes was doing was trying to avoid the tag. And meanwhile, Jaso was coming in. The home plate umpire's looking. And when he does that, that means no run. Yeah.
And when we had the what we like to call the double box for TV talk, but you could tell Jaso, his foot was about 6 inches away from home plate when the tag was made. That's how close it was.
But you remember, too, he looked back to see that there was a throw to second. He knew that he had to score before the tag was applied at second, or it was not going to be a run. And it could have been an out at second, but if Jaso had hit the plate first, the A's,
then it's a run.
It'd have been a double play, or at least 2 outs, not a double play. But if Morris had thrown to second back to first, that would have been a moot point. But by going the distance the way he did, that created it. But
as soon as it becomes a tag play, then the runner can get home before the tag is made, and the run will be allowed to score. So a strange play and an unfortunate play for the A's.
You know, Cap, there are things that, and just watching Cespedes, and I know talking to Ariel Prieto, when he played for the Cuban national team, totally different than playing here. A lot of things that you anticipate a player doing or expect a player to do here, he didn't have to do them there. And I don't know that maybe he was ever in a rundown in Cuba, because there are fly balls that a lot of times he doesn't run. There are things that Ariel Prieto is trying to teach him that he needs to do here.
Colon can't find it. It's right at his feet, and everybody's safe. He did the natural thing. He looked up like you would think it would pop up in the air, and it didn't go anywhere. It just stayed right between his legs.
I thought maybe it was in his glove, but he would have known that. But Bay right back up the middle, hit Colon's glove, his knee. I think when it hit his leg, probably thought it was going to pop up. And once he did realize, and of course everybody's pointing, which doesn't help, because you point up, you point down, it doesn't help.
So 2 on, nobody out for Mike Zunino. Zunino swings and misses at a fastball. Little weirdness in the early going here.
Hope those kids enjoyed playing catch with their dad out on the field, because that was the simple part of the day. Because it has gotten complicated. That was a nice gesture. The father's on the field playing catch.
And it's 0-2 to Zunino. Brendan Ryan will be next.
Daddy gets to come to the game. Daughters, sons get to bring Daddy and say, special day, and Dad loves it because he gets to come out and watch baseball.
0-2 pitch is a little flare, and that's going to get down for a hit. Mike Morris, who's got the bad wheel, he's going to stop at third, so the bases are loaded with nobody out. So an 0-2 pitch, and Zunino fights it off for a hit.
Well, all three hits in this inning. And while this location's up, it's still jammed. Look at the location of where the ball hit the bat for Zunino. But Morris's fly ball to right field, he jammed him. Reddick playing deep. Then the ball, of course, to Colon was at his feet. And now this one, but meanwhile, bases loaded, nobody out.
Ryan hitting .206, a couple of home runs. One for 8 in the series.
Yeah, he's to take a double play here. If they could get it. Try to get it.
First pitch, and it's foul back.
I think they were hoping to get the strikeout with Zunino. Got him 0-2. You know what I think happens too, Cap, when a young player Zunino comes up, and I mean, drafted last year, big leagues this year. It's hard to get a book on him. How are you going to pitch him? You know, a lot of times young kids just say, here's a baseball, I'm going to swing and hope to make contact.
Setting up inside, and it's popped foul again. This one down the right field line. So Colon ahead in the count. Typical ball strike breakdown for Colon. 6 balls, 24 strikes.
Nine batters, 9 first pitch strikes. So shock. Huh?
And that one is a bit outside as Ryan checked his swing.
And that's what Bartolo does as he tries this at 94, tries to get a little bit extra, and he almost got Ryan to go after it. Kind of a fly ball. Morris is not going to run well with the bad leg.
Blocked, and now it's 2-2. Morris at third, Bay at second, Zunino at first.
Of course, this ball came right up to John Jaso, who got down. He did bring the glove up, but the ball hit him in the chest protector. The only thing the chest protector is good for. Wow.
420 innings.
That's amazing.
Two and 2 to Ryan. Swing and a miss. He struck him out with a breaking ball. 1 out.
Now, Bartolo Colon usually is a pitch to contact, but here he throws a slider. Look at the rotation. An Exmo with a slider, and Ryan, not expecting it, pulled the bat in, and you see just how much he missed, at least making contact, but no contact. That's amazing. Exmo's good, isn't it?
Exmo's good.
Gosh.
So here's the top of the order, Endy Chavez. And a good pitch there, 0-1.
Now that's the pitch. That's the one he wants. Because Chavez is close to the plate, pushes him back with the fastball, and then the two-seamer brings it back.
Chavez opened up the game with a base hit to left center field. Foul that back, and Colon ahead in the count here, 0-2.
So a two-seam fastball in, brings it back for a strike. Slider going in. So he has several options. But the one pitch he doesn't have to the lefty that he has to the righty is the backdoor two-seam fastball. At least to the lefty, though, he can go at him to his hip and maybe try to get the call strike 3 inside if that's what he chooses to do with 0-2.
And they're going to come inside. And they almost got it, but Chavez backed away, so the count 1-2.
And speaking of back, how about backing it up with another one? And Chavez just wants to hit the ball to left field. That's why he's close to the plate looking for the pitch outside. He will not roll over on pitches, as some hitters will.
And that one's line base hit left center field. 1 run scores. 2 runs are going to score, and Endy Chavez has done it again. Same place as the base hit he had in the first inning, and the Mariners take a 2-0 lead.
I don't know if he was that convinced to go in as hard as he did the first time. This one got a lot of the plate, and Chavez just slapped it. And that's, again, having the vet at the top of the batting order, especially in these situations.
So still just 1 out, 4 hits in the inning, 6 hits in the game for the Mariners already. And here's Nick Franklin. Franklin popped out to short. First at bat, and he takes a pitch outside.
Well, like Felix Hernandez yesterday, you did not want to give Iwakuma a lot of run support. They have already done it with the 2 runs.
And there's another base hit left field. Smith charges, and they're going to hold up Zunino. Throw comes all the way through, and the bases are loaded again. So Nick Franklin goes the other way.
Well, pretty good approach by the left-handers. Pitch was elevated. Kurt Young's going to visit with his starter.
All kinds of opposite field hits in this inning.
I was just thinking that. Except for Seegers. Seegers in the first inning is the only one that's not.
That's right, yeah.
Everything else has been opposite field or up the middle. In the case of Bays, right back to Colon. I remember the start against the Yankees, the first inning in particular, bases loaded, 1 out. And he got a couple of pop-ups foul that got him out of the inning. And then he settled down. He scored him some runs, and he won the game.
So now you face the heart of the order, and Kyle Seager steps in. Seager base hit in the first inning.
The one thing they're not getting, Colon's not getting, is a ground ball. Everything's in the air except for the one that Bay hit, but you want to get a ground ball to try to get a double play where the A's are playing it now.
First pitch is outside. So 40 pitches for Colon so far in the game. Seager with a line drive. Reddick coming in, and he makes a terrific catch, and he gets it back in quickly, and Zunino could not get back in time to tag up. That was a shot, but Reddick made a heck of a play.
Well, great play, and of course with his arm, once he made the play, even Zunino tags, which he was not. I think he just thought this ball was going to drop, but Josh Reddick does it so well, and he just got Eric Wedge's vote for Gold Glove on that play alone, plus his strong arm that he's displayed in this weekend series. And he was not going to take anything for granted. And, you know, kind of in between, and a lot of times on a ball like that, the runner doesn't feel it can score unless the ball drops. It didn't.
So 2 outs, base is still loaded, and here's Kendrys Morales.
What happens when you pull the ball? Everybody else going opposite field. He's pulled it twice.
Doggone line drives. Morales hit a deep fly ball to left center in the first inning.
It was a grand slam in Anaheim that put him on the DL for a long time. And a walk-off opposite field grand slam that jumped on the plate. Lost a lot of playing time as a result of the injury.
Swing and a miss. 93 miles an hour for Colon.
The pull set up by Morales, and with a pitch outside and the velocity couldn't catch up.
This one popped up. Smith coming in, still coming in. He's going to get there, and he makes the catch. Side retired. So 2 runs on 5 hits for the Mariners. Bottom of the second coming up, 2-0 Seattle. Hyundai Sunday is brought to you by your Bay Area Hyundai dealers. 2-0. The Mariners lead the A's. It's the bottom of the second inning on Father's Day.
But I will say this very simply, Kite. It is a positive game so far because the Mariners have left 5 on base.
Yeah, it could be like 6-0.
Exactly. So give them 2 runs and go after them. And maybe Iwakuma think that's enough. As long as Colon can hold them down.
First pitch to Donaldson is a strike. Shutdown inning for Iwakuma. How's he been? Slightly better than the league average. Donaldson, Smith, and Reddick. Iwakuma gave up a walk and a single. He's at first and third and 1 out, but did not score thanks to a double play in the first inning.
Amazing how yesterday and today exactly the same. The A's could not score on a sac fly out at the plate. Don't score here, and like yesterday, Mariners come back next inning and score 2 in this inning, 5 yesterday.
And a high fastball. Donaldson swings and misses, and that's out number 1.
Only the Chevron credit card gets you free A's tickets at the Coliseum box office. Purchase an A's ticket at regular price. Show your Chevron credit card and get a second ticket of equal value free. Go to chevroncards.com to learn more and apply. Seats subject to availability. Some restrictions apply. This offer is administered by Chevron USA. Isn't that great?
Here's Smith. Playing left field, hitting in the 6th spot today. First pitch is low. The Blue Jays are beating the Rangers again today, 3-0 in the 6th inning. Blue Jays are going for the 4-game sweep in Arlington. And I tell you what, you want to talk about struggling to score runs. The Texas Rangers, you do not say this very often, but their offense is scuffling big time. They have scored 6 runs in their last 5 games. That's a total of 6 runs, folks. And to stretch that out, Ray, in the month of June, the Rangers are 4-10, so they've played 14 games. They've scored a total of 37 runs. That's fewest in the American League.
That's hard to believe for that club.
And that's a pretty good lineup. But it has been a struggle as of late for the Texas Rangers. Big bouncer right towards second. Franklin has it. And that's out number 2. Pitching for the Blue Jays in that game is Chien-Ming Wang, who's was signed by the Blue Jays, and he's making the start against Derek Holland. So we'll keep an eye on that one, but it's 3-0 in the 6th. There's your AL West standings. So the A's playing great baseball, at least up until just recently. That coupled with the Rangers losing 5 in a row and 8 of their last 10, the A's have taken over first place in the division. The Yankees are leading the Angels 5-0 in the 4th inning. So the Angels going for a sweep there, but the Yankees with the 5-0 lead.
And we wish Mark Teixeira the best. He had to go back to New York. Is his same wrist that kept him out some 50 some odd games and bothered him, and sent back to New York to get it checked. Sad thing about that, they said when the injury occurred, rest they hoped would take care of it. There was a possibility that surgery would be required.
Yes, he had an MRI today. They showed inflammation, but no re-tear in the area that was hurt.
That's good.
So at least just inflammation is what the MRI showed. Swing and miss by Reddick to even the count at 2-2. The Yankees have lost 5 in a row. There's the 3 here, and then the first 2 in that series in Anaheim, and they have been struggling to score runs. Reddick shoots one foul.
Yeah, I think that's why you appreciate a team. Say the Tigers started 35-5 in '84 and just ran the table. The Reds, remember them in 1990, wire to wire. And when you start playing well and you continue all the way through to the end of the World Series, that's an exceptional season. But you do have the peaks and the valleys, and it's how quickly you can get out of the valleys to get back to where you normally are playing.
There's a shot toward right center. Reddick's got a chance for a triple. As he hits the bag at second, he's going to try for third. The throw to third is just a little bit late, and Reddick has a 3-bagger. His first of the year.
Well, when you see a guy going to third, you want him to make it, because with 2 outs, he's in scoring position at second. But, man, you talk about splitting the gap. Right in the middle, center and right, all the way to the wall. Chavez going to it quickly, but also Josh Reddick could see where the ball was. And Ty Waller is waving him to second. At that point, he looked, and he's on his own going to third, almost tripped at second. And this is a close play at third with a head first slide and a bang bang play, but at least he made it. So maybe to reward him, how about a wild pitch?
Last July was the last triple for Reddick. So Rosales will try to knock him in with a 2-out hit, and the first pitch is a call the ball.
Seager waiting for the throw, and the left hand in just barely in time. Called by Adrian Johnson, the third base umpire. Triple is always exciting, especially with a successful slide, which he had.
Slider in there first strike, 1-1. 198 the average for Rosales. Got 4 homers, 8 RBIs. He's 0 for 4 in the series. Rosales started the game on Friday night at third base. First time he's played there this year. Of course, Donaldson got that game off.
First pitch fastball missed, back-to-back breaking ball, swing and misses. So if he's pitching the way he has, this should be a fastball. Trying to get him to chase, maybe even out of the strike zone. Likes to throw the fastball when he's at the head of the count. Hitters ahead, you're not going to see a fastball. At least he's not been able to throw any. Surprising thing watching Zunino, granted he's a young catcher, but anytime there's a runner at third and the catcher has his hand behind his back. I mean, it's kind of the down to the side, but Iwakuma, likes to throw the splitter. And if it's in the dirt, it's a little bit difficult to block your one-handed catcher and a runner at third base, or anybody on base for that matter. But watch what he does with his right hand. He's just called for fastball outside. See, he's basically a true one-handed catcher there. So he did go to the fastball away.
Some numbers on the Iwakuma fastball. And the difference between last year and this year, he was pretty good last year. He's been great this year.
Well, they talk about pitching backwards. In essence, that's what he's doing. He's behind in the count. He'll throw you off speed, gets ahead, and throw you fastballs. Hitters typically will shorten up, try to make contact with 2 strikes. That's why the fastball is able to be thrown by them.
Nasty pitch there. He gets the strikeout. Second strikeout. A. Strand Reddick at third. And we're headed to the third. 2-0 Seattle.
The July 3rd game features a post-game patriotic fireworks show, and on the 4th of July afternoon game, 10,000 fans will receive a green checkered picnic blanket courtesy of Comerica Bank. For more information and tickets, go to OaklandAthletics.com/tickets.
Ibanez to lead it off here in the third inning, followed by Morse and Bay. Mariners with 2 runs on 7 hits so far in the game. Well, Ray, I'd like to wish you a happy Father's Day. I know you have 2 wonderful daughters.
2 grandsons, so both, but same to you. And I think you said your dad might be watching.
Oh, yeah.
Back in Wisconsin.
Henry's watching. 88 years old a couple of weeks ago.
No. 88 years young.
88 years young. Nobody loves baseball more than Henry.
That's good.
It's a doubleheader every day.
That's right. He's got a couple of teams to watch every day. Actually, he's going to watch a game today and one tonight, right?
That's right, and he knows it too. He's got it all written on the schedule. It'd be great to have a doubleheader to watch every day, or almost every day.
Absolutely, and not only that, you got a chance to go visit him while we were back in Milwaukee. Yeah, so that was a good trip for you.
Moss has it. He'll hustle to the back.
And there's another play, and Sogard in right field. Granted, the ball wasn't hit that hard. Moss could get to it, but I was talking to Mike Gallego about the communication. Nate Fryman ventured a little bit too far to his right, and I asked Gags, I said, when you talk about communication, what do you mean? And he said, every pitch. If you're at second base, you're at first base, you look to each other and say, where are you? I'm going to be here. There are times, too, that a first and third baseman will know pitches that have been called or pitches that have been thrown, which is going to determine a lot of times how a ball is going to be hit. But if you know where the second baseman is, your first baseman, you can take one step. You know he's there, and you can go to first, and it's always easier for a first baseman to catch a ball instead of a pitcher have to take a throw on the run, which occurred a couple of nights ago with Ibanez.
It really doesn't seem like a big thing to work on, but if you're a new first baseman, and Moss is somewhat of a new first baseman. So 1-1 the count to Michael Morse, who singled and scored in the second.
Did your kids get up and make you breakfast this morning? I mean,
they did. They helped my wife make me breakfast, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, good. Did you have a Cocoa Crisp cereal bowl?
I did not, but the 2 Cocoa Crisp cereal bowls in my house have been used for 6 consecutive days, and try sneaking another bowl by the kids, and that is not happening.
And the good thing, they must be eating all the cereal because Coco and his autograph are in the bottom.
Looking at the bottom,
yeah. So finish your cereal and the milk, and you get to see Coco.
That's right. Wife and kids are watching. Wife Amanda, the kids Jack and Annie are enjoying a little pool time and watching the ball game.
Daddy's working. That's perfect.
That's up. Donaldson fires in time to get Morris, and that's out number 2.
And Josh Donaldson, I thought that is a great play because he knows Morris is injured. Ball was hit slowly. A lot of times you'll see him charge, barehand the ball. Watch what he does. Morris is running. He charges, stops. Nice, easy play, and throws and gets Morris, who can barely make it down the line. But he knew playing deep that maybe he would have to barehand it in a normal situation, but not with Michael Morris playing, although seriously hurt. It's almost painful to watch him try to run. But that's a smart play, knowing who the hitter is and how you have to make a play.
Bay skies one on the infield. And Moss has it, side retired. So 5 in a row retired by Bartolo Colon. Bottom of the third coming up, 2-0 Seattle. Final scores of your favorite team sent directly to your phone. Text Athletics to 82653 to receive A's final score alerts. CSNCalifornia.com. It's your interactive mobile leader for authentic Bay Area sports. Beautiful Father's Day at the ballpark with the Mariners leading 2-0 over the A's. Sogard to lead it off, followed by Crisp and Jaso. Against Hisashi Uwakuma with the second best ERA in the American League. Only Clay Buchholz has better ERA. And that one is fair. Past Seager. Rolling down the left field line. And Sogard's going to try for two. The throw is a little offline, and it's a double. So Sogard with a two-bagger.
Eric Sogard stood in second base and watched all the left-handers of the Mariners go opposite field, and why not do the same thing? Pitch left up, the two-seamer, taking it right back out over the plate, and Eric Sogard just passed Seager at third base. Great job of hitting, going opposite field, and not only that, stretching it into a double, because Ibanez got to the ball very quickly, but you have to challenge them, and A's just trying to get on the board. They tried yesterday after the slam, but could not do it. Definitely try to do it today. This is a crowd you want to please today.
Yeah,
this is
sellout.
6th sellout of the season on June 16th.
Here's Coco. Bunts it foul.
Well, that's not a bad idea. He was going to first base, and Morris was going to be thinking, why me? You know I'm hurt. But yeah, that's why he's going to bunt towards you.
Coco grounded out to short in the first inning. Slice foul.
I think really Iwakuma is the type of pitcher, although now with a couple of strikes might be different, but you almost have to think off speed with him, because everything he is throwing so far today, it seems, that has some movement to it. Even the ball that Sogard hit to left field, it was a fastball, considered a fastball, but a two-seam action taken away from the lefty.
0-2 pitch is bounced right side. That will get the runner over. So Sogard to third with one out. And Jaso steps in.
One opportunity yesterday with a runner at third, less than 2 outs. Could not get him in. This is second today. The first inning, and now this third inning. Last inning had a runner at third with one out. Infield is going to play in. Figured Iwakuma's a ground ball pitcher.
Jaso walked in the first inning. First pitch is blocked by Zunino. So the catcher saves a run with that block.
And he does a good job because he brings his other hand. Although, just looking at that side, he may have had his hand closer to him. Yeah, see, his hand is already there to start. And that's why you need the right hand, because otherwise you're using just your glove hand to try to block the ball. So he did a very good job that time. Well, with the pitchers throwing split and breaking balls, you almost want to use every part of your body that you have to try to block the ball.
Missed inside, and the count is 2-0. Cespedes in the on-deck circle. Sogard is the runner at third. And there's a strike on the inside corner. The Blue Jays have added another run. They now lead 4-0 over the Rangers in the seventh.
This is questionable. And with the umpire's positioning, I guess it was a strike, but close enough anyway.
Just a bit outside. That may have been more of a strike than the pitch right before that. Either way, it's 3-1.
But look where he's set up. It's an angle, man. Take it.
So 3-1 to Jaso. And it's low and he walked it. So Jaso has walked twice.
Got hit for the second. How about a slider? Hanging slider, Cespedes. That was actually an early 1-0 lead, but didn't hold up. He also hit a slider against him last season. It came in relief of Millwood. That was a hanging slider, hit the left center field. But even better, the first two pitches he saw today were both fastballs. Second one, he ripped to right center.
So another opportunity for the A's. They had first and third, 1 out in the first. They had a runner at third and 2 outs in the second. And here in the third, they have first and third with 1 out.
Well, left side of the infield is going to play. Now Ryan's going to back up. Looks like he might be playing. He's about halfway, though.
First pitch to Cespedes is hit high and foul down the right field line, well back into the seats. So Iwakuma jumps out ahead. Cespedes had a line single to right center in the first inning.
Yeah, you have to wonder with Cespedes, of course, nursing a tight hamstring, if he hits the ball on the ground. And the A's with first and third, and of course they would like to avoid a double play. Would he be able to run hard enough to have his normal speed to avoid that? That's what the Mariners are hopeful. They're playing for double play. They expected him to pull the ball.
And that one runs inside. Now Ryan, the shortstop, he's really not at double play depth, and he's really not playing in. He's somewhere in between those two spots.
Well, he's doing a lot of directing.
Yes,
he's talking to Seager at third, now talking to Franklin at second, and that's really the captain in the infield controlling everything. But he and Seager, the third baseman, almost side by side as far as the depth on the infield.
Fastball is high, and now it's 2-1. On deck is Brandon Moss. Iwakuma does not walk a lot of guys. He's walked 2 today, but just 16 total on the season, and that in nearly 100 innings. And that one's popped up shallow left. Ibanez is under it, and Ibanez makes the catch, gets it back in quickly. So Cespedes, the fly ball not deep enough, and that's out number 2.
See, there's your check swing on an off-speed pitch, and that's Iwakuma. Got behind 2-1 and went soft. And if Cespedes had just followed through with his swing, there's a rotation, the breaking ball, and Cespedes just kind of a half swing, and without driving the ball, hit it straight up. And that's just one of the easiest swings you ever see from him. And you'd like to see the bat speed on the hanging slider. It'd have been a 3-run home run. So another opportunity with a runner at third, less than 2 outs.
So here's Moss, who hit into a 3-6 double play to end the first inning. That came with runners on the corners. First pitch, foul back. So Iwakuma starts Moss out with a fastball. But a well-placed fastball. A little movement away from Moss.
Thing is, he's elevating his fastball, but the movement away from the left-handers. He's getting away with it because the extra velocity. That was at 92. He has a 1.79 ERA to start the game for a reason. Now it's at 1.74.
So both teams, at least in the early going, are shaking their heads a little bit at opportunities missed, even though the Mariners did get 2 in the second.
Well, Thursday, the A's watch the Yankees shake their heads a lot.
Yep.
In the 18-inning game.
Off speed, and Moss swings over top, just got a piece of it. So see the speed at 87 miles an hour, but lots of downward movement.
Exmo showing the ball just barely being ticked on the top of the ball by the bat.
There's your scoring position numbers so far. One-two pitch, got him swinging. So Iwakuma works out of the jam. 2 more runners stranded for the A's, and it stays 2-0 Seattle. March 29th of last year, Bartolo Colon makes his Athletics debut, and it happens in Japan against the Mariners, and he got the win. 8 innings, just 3 hits, 1 run, and he struck out 6. That was March 29th of 2012, again in Japan. "16 wins in his career against the Seattle Mariners. Overall in his career, 179 wins. You know, you look at the wins leaders among pitchers in the American League. It's a little bit of a crowded mix, but there's only 2 other pitchers, Buchholz and Scherzer, who have 9 wins. And Bartolo Colon is looking for his 9th win today. There's 5 that have 8 wins. Moore, Masterson, Verlander, Hernandez, and Colon. So good company for Bartolo Colon. Also has the 10th best ERA in the American League coming into today's action.
And if he continues to pitch well, of course, Grant Balfour is perfect in his save opportunities. Yeah. But we're still talking about pitchers. Josh Donaldson has had a very good first 3 months of the season.
And Zunino strikes out. That's the second strikeout for Cologne.
They have to go a long ways back for last time the A's had a position player as an all-star. Unlike the first at-bat, this fastball away from Zunino, the 0-2 in his first at-bat, was one up and in that jammed him and hit it to right field. But this fastball, good location down and away, and got it.
Well, I think there's a decent chance this year that the A's could get more than one player to the All-Star game. Certainly hope so.
Absolutely.
And Cologne, after this start, before the All-Star break, he'll probably get, I looked at the schedule, he's probably got a chance to get 3 or 4 more starts, probably 4 more starts. Oh, and 1 to Ryan. That one's looped to right field. Reddick coming in, and Reddick reaches down, and he makes another nice catch right above the shoe tops.
Well, he kind of hesitated momentarily, but really picked it up. Did not break back, but hesitated. And then once he took off, was able to reach down and get the ball. And it's another excellent play, especially to have to charge the ball, reach down, taking a hit away from Ryan.
You start looking at, in Donaldson's case, you start looking at other third basemen that have a chance to make it, which could maybe hurt his chances. Of course, Cabrera's going to make it. He's maybe the best player in baseball.
He's going to get more votes than anybody probably in the history of the game.
I think the guy that you got to keep an eye on in the context of who's going to make the All-Star team is Manny Machado.
That's right. Machado's
hitting .327.
And already has 30 doubles.
Yeah. How about 32
30 now?
Speaking of Donaldson, he picks that one and he throws out Endy Chavez. So 8 in a row retired by Bartolo Colon, but the A's still trailing 2-0.
You should probably do it every day, you know, give them that recognition every day. But to have one day where you can really say thank you and kind of show them what they mean to you and what they meant when you were growing up and all the stuff that they did for you, it's definitely, it could be a little emotional when you go back and think about it, like, you know, how much they love you and what they would do for you. So it's nice to have those days that they can, you know, you can recognize them for that.
This Father's Day weekend on June 15th and 16th, participating Wendy's will donate 50 cents from every Frosty product sold to the Dade Thomas Foundation for Adoption to help foster children find permanent, loving homes. Wendy's, now that's better.
2-0, the Mariners lead, bottom of the 4th inning with Donaldson digging in.
Hitting out the bottom of the 4th inning for the Athletics, third baseman, number 20, Josh Donaldson.
Donaldson, Smith, and Reddick. So it's nice to hear from Tommy Malone on Father's Day. Iwakuma kicks, and the first pitch to Donaldson is lined toward left center field, and nobody's going to get it. So see, we just brought up Manny Machado and all the doubles he's hitting, and Donaldson says, wait a minute, I got a double for you.
I want to ask you a question. When Machado hits a double, does he score? we didn't have him score today. Now, I think Iwakuma's just teasing everybody, just giving these hits and then starting to throw off speed pitches. But that was a great swing on an 89-mile-an-hour fastball, two-seamer movement. But Bañez could not get to it. It's going to be an easy double, but that part is great. The A's have had nothing but base runners and opportunities in each now the first 4 innings. Just need to capitalize.
And not only base runners, but guys in scoring position.
Exactly.
Guys at third with less than 2 out.
What's the batting average with runners in scoring position?
Is it 0 for 5 now, B.I.? 0 for 5.
Well, I know the 0 was in front of the whatever number it was.
What gave that away, huh?
What? 1 for 18 in the series? Wow.
All right, we're bringing everybody down here.
Well, yeah, you have to go back to Friday night. It was the double by Sogard with 2 outs, and that's the only time the A's have scored.
Smith rolls one foul. But speaking of those doubles, as we said, Manny Machado, 32 doubles now in 71 games. And he is on pace to set the all-time record for doubles in a season. Whether he gets it, now that's a different story. Earl Webb in 1931 had 67 doubles. That's the record. Pretty good young player, Mr. Machado.
Yeah, he's going to be an all-star along with Cabrera. So there's 2 at third.
Probably. That one hit down the right field line, headed for the wall, and it's going to one-hop the wall. Donaldson's going to come in to score, and Smith has an RBI double, and the A's are on the board.
And you know what today is, don't you? Hyundai Sunday. Nobody better than Seth Smith on this Hyundai Sunday Father's Day, because Seth Smith got the pitch. He wanted to try to pull the ball. He did. Almost hooked it into the seats. But one hopped the wall, so a leadoff double and another double. So the A's get their first hit with the runner in scoring position, and a big one to score Josh Donaldson. Now they need to try to do the same with Seth Smith. We just brought him home.
So back-to-back doubles, and here's Reddick. He had a triple in the second inning. And he rips one into right center field, a base hit. Smith had to make sure it goes through, but he's still going to be waved home. He's going to score, and we're all tied at 2.
Now how many hits with runners in scoring position? How about back-to-back? And Carl Willis, the veteran pitching coach, going to visit with his ace, and right down the middle. See the little loop in the two-seamer. Now they're going to check on Iwakuma. No, I take that back. Great base hit. We'll talk about why he's got company out for Carl Willis, but that is a great job of hitting. And Mike Gallego, even though Seth Smith had to make sure the ball did go through, he scores him. Now, when I saw the non-uniform person go out, that's the interpreter for Iwakuma. That is allowable now, that you can have an interpreter go out with a manager or pitching coach. And that is that gentleman who is the interpreter for Iwakuma.
First earned run allowed in 31 2/3 innings.
Well, you remember Chris Sale a couple of Sundays ago. He had, 28 total. Finally gave up a run. That was on the walk, then a sac fly scored Coco Crisp. Now, this is huge today to come back with back-to-back hits. Actually, 3 consecutive hits, 2 to drive in runs.
Bunted. And Rosales with the sacrifice. Reddick to second. Now the A's have the go-ahead run at second with 1 out.
I like that. I mean, that's Adam Rosales knows he's been struggling, but that is a great bunt. You know, I thought yesterday, Cap, when Saunders Big center fielder came up. We had been struggling first 2 runners on base with Felix Hernandez. He did not bunt and got struck out. Griffin got out of the inning, but today Bob Melvin knows runs are premium against 2 of the top pitchers in the American League. One of them on the mound today. So Sogard with a double last at bat, trying to bring in Josh Reddick from second.
So here's Sogard, who doubled in the 3rd. A's now with 6 hits. The A's have 3 doubles, a triple, and 2 singles.
A sellout crowd, and man, you could just hear the excitement we heard at the end of last season. Final 3 games against the Rangers, and then this afternoon another sellout, and Bartolo Colon, a couple runs early, but he has settled down, and the A's have tied it for him.
Sogard gets jammed, pops a foul back. The Astros just beat the White Sox 5-4, and they finished off a 3-game sweep of Chicago. So the Astros have won 4 in a row, and the White Sox have lost 4 in a row, and the White Sox just having a real tough time. They have the 2nd worst record in the American League.
It's hard to believe. Well, congratulations to Bo Porter.
Yep,
and
they're starting to play
Chris
well.
Carter, their first Astros since going back a while. They had, what, 14 home runs before the All-Star break or something like that. Chris Carter, former Athletic first baseman, and he's got Jed Lowry, happy to get him, and Brad Peacock along with Chris Carter, the Astros. You know, there are a lot of clubs around baseball, especially the American League, saying, how have the A's defeated the Astros 9 consecutive? Because there's some teams that have had trouble with Bo Porter and his crew. They still have several games to play against the Astros. They will come here twice, and the A's will go back to Houston once.
0-2 pitch to Sogard. Fights off that high fastball. .63 pitches for Iwakuma here in the 4th inning. So he has not really been sharp, which I'm sure the Mariners are not used to seeing. Walked 2, struck out 3, giving up a lot of base runners. Here's today's cold hard facts. They're brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. A's record versus the AL West. There it is, 9-0 versus the Astros, but just 3-6 versus the Mariners. Good against the Angels, 3-3 against the Rangers.
Well, you figured one team, they're going to have trouble with one team in the division. Some good teams in the American League West. A lot of good teams.
That one rolled foul. The Blue Jays are now leading the Texas Rangers 7-0 in the 8th inning. Adam Lind hit a 3-run homer to extend that lead from 4-0 to 7-0.
And it's one thing that runs for the Blue Jays. It's the 0 that you're seeing for the Rangers. That's the shocking part. There's Dave Maggott, the hitting coach, and of course Ron Washington, the manager. Excellent staff, but they have to be a little frustrated also.
Just a touch inside, 1-2. So whatever the outcome of that game is, the A's will see a staggering Rangers team the next 4 games.
This at bat started 0-2, 4 foul balls with 2 strikes, now a ball. Sogard staying alive.
And that one looped toward left, but Ibanez was playing very shallow, and he makes the catch. And I mean very shallow.
Yeah, I mean, you have to give him a lot of credit. He's a veteran. He knows, especially kind of the swing that Sogard's in a protect mode. And why play deep and allow this ball to drop in front? And you hear the excitement of the fans. Thought maybe it's a base hit, and In a lot of cases it might have been, but not with Ibanez playing that shallow. He's going to do it again with Coco, as well as the rest of the outfield, with the exception of the right fielder Bay.
See, I think if you probably just kind of did the math in your head, Ray. You said, well, Eric Sogard, how many times is he going to hit a ball like that?
That's right.
Compared to how many times is he going to hit a ball that I can't catch that goes over my head?
That's right. Very rare.
Very rare.
Especially when the hitter has 2 strikes, and you can see that he is just trying to make contact.
Little cue shot. Iwakuma backhands, and that's a pretty nice play. Throws in time. Side retired. So 2 runs on 3 hits for the A's, and we're through 4 at the Coliseum. It's a 2-2 game. Pitchers that led the American League with 2 shutouts this season, that lead the American League with 2 shutouts this season. If you think you know the answer, tweet us at CSN Athletics. So 3 pitchers in the American League have 2 shutouts, basically. Could be Iwakuma, the way he's pitched this year. Could be Bartolo Colon, the way he's pitched this year. First pitch to Nick Franklin is a strike.
Wow, that's pretty good. 20 of 22, and the way he's been pitching, be a great time to get the shutdown and try to get back in the dugout and score again. Yeah, we've seen recently where Bartolo Colon has had a little bump in the road in the early part of the game, but he's a veteran, and with the exception of the 1 inning, and even when he gave up 5 hits, he left 3 on base to end the inning, giving up just 2 runs. It could have been a lot worse.
0-2 pitch. And the biggest at bat, I think, Ray, in that inning was Kyle Seager's line drive to right field to bases loaded that Reddick made a very nice play on, and the runners could not advance. So not only was it an out, but it was not a sacrifice fly. One 2 pitch is hit hard. The shortstop Rosales has it, and that's out number 1. So Franklin is retired, and that is 9 in a row gone down by Bartolo Colon.
And the nice thing about it, that is the 8th ground ball out. So he is getting the ball on the ground, which was what he was hoping for earlier, especially with the bases loaded. But line drives that were being hit, some adjustments made, and I think Bartolo Colon has made adjustments in this game as well after some of the lefties were hitting the ball to left field in the air.
1 out for Kyle Seager. Seager a base hit in the first, and then that line out that we talked about, it came with the bases loaded and 1 out in the second. 2 runs already in. Off speed pitch in for a strike. Yankees still leading the Angels 5-0 in the 7th inning. Moss far to his right, flips underhand to Colon, who loses his hat but catches the baseball. See, Colon is moving so fast his hat flies off.
That's it.
Just like Dwayne Murphy and Willie Mays, you can't slow guys like that down.
Brandon Moss to his right. Ball's not hit that hard, so not a bad play for Brandon Moss, even though Sogard might have been there. But man, Speedy Gonzalez, man, he was flying. Right to nice feed and caught the ball, looked down, touched the bag. That's an excellent play by the veteran Colon, who's done that a few times. Maybe not run out from under his cap. Josh Donaldson kind of walked the ball over to Colon, give him a chance to catch his breath.
Kendrys Morales has hit a couple of fly balls, 1 to center and 1 to left. He's 1 for 10 in the series. And he's behind in the count 0-2. An off-speed pitch for a strike, and then a fastball for a strike.
Maybe running to first got him loose.
That 31 pitch second inning, the big trouble spot.
56 through 3, and that's but he has settled down. And
strike 3 call. The fastball right down around the knees, and Colon has now retired 11 consecutive Mariners 2-2 game after 4.5.
Big inning for the A's. Starts with a double. Leadoff double by Josh Donaldson in left center field. And on Hyundai Sunday, Seth Smith, another double down the right field line, bouncing off the wall. And then even better, the next batter, Josh Reddick, with a line drive base hit to right center field, scoring Seth Smith to tie the game. And the A's sacrificed Reddick to second, but could not get him in. So we're tied at 2, but a big comeback by the A's, especially with Colon pitching as well as he is right now.
So Iwakuma back to work. Jaso, Cespedes, and Moss for the A's here in the top of the 5th inning. Jaso has walked twice. Only 2 walks that Iwakuma has issued. He has struck out 3, and he's allowed 6 hits total, and breaking ball snaps in for a strike on the inside corner. 1-2. So Iwakuma's pitch count at 72. So his pitch count's pretty high as well.
Yeah, Colon finished the top of the 5th with 77 total after the big number for the first 2 innings.
A's have stranded 5 in the first 4 innings. They had 2 base runners in the first, a base runner in the second, 2 more in the third, and 3 in the fourth. So Iwakuma does not have a 3-up, 3-down inning yet.
And the only batter he's gone a 3-ball count to is at the plate now, 3 times to John Jaso, and he probably caught him last year.
And it's outside. He walked him again. A leadoff walk here in the bottom of the 5th.
The 14th annual A's Mug Root Beer Float Day is on Wednesday, June the 26th. That's when the A's will be back here. The A's players, coaches, local celebrities, including my partner Glenn Capper, and more will serve fans Mug Root Beer floats for $2 each. A limited supply of signed Ryan Cook mugs will be available for $25. 15 non-autographed mugs are also available. Proceeds benefit the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Admission is free for the game ticket. The Mug Root Beer Float Day is presented by Pepsi. Ice cream is donated by Dreyer's. I know Kyle and Shooty and be out there scooping the ice cream. I know Shooty. He's been pumping iron just so he could go out and scoop ice cream.
What you'll be out there, right? No. I thought you.
No. I'll probably be there. You know, you put me on
hard
the
to get a
spot
little
there.
bit. Huh? I thought it was like a regular occurrence. I'm sorry, I did not mean to put you on the spot.
No. I'll be there.
I know most of us announcers are usually out there scooping ice cream.
Yeah.
Vinny's out there, and you and me.
But Shooty, I don't think anybody pumps iron any more than Shooty does before he goes out. Pumps iron all the time.
Yeah, he does curls for an hour and then gets right back out there. That one is ripped left center field, and it's off the base of the wall. Jaso's being waved home, and we're going to have a play at the plate, and he is safe.
Talk about a rocket. How about this rocket to left center? Fastball and Cespedes. Complete extension of the massive arms, and that ball shot. I thought it hit too hard off the Comcast Sportsnet California sign. Back to Chavez, but always aggressive. Mike Gallego sent Jaso. Great slide. Head first, grabbing the plate with his hand. But what bat speed by Yoenis Cespedes on a shot to left center. And these guys know that they're going to be sent by Gallego. But what the slide. Head first, watch him grab the plate with his left hand as Zunino tried to get it. What a great slide. Throw just enough to the right as Jaso got past him on the left. If that ball's on the plate, it's probably an out. But that's the difference of the location of the throw. And like Fryman the other night on Friday, when he tried to score from a dead stop at third, Jaso was able to continue to run and a great slide to score.
So Cespedes gets RBI number 36. Breaking ball outside to Moss. Still nobody out.
It's a very good relay, but just the location of the throw just to the first base side home that Zunino had to reach for it and then go back to try to get Jaso. And you'll see more and more of the runners going head first to the side, going by the catcher and reaching back with a bare hand to touch the plate.
Two and 0 to Moss. Inside corner strike, 2-1.
Look at the slide and see where the throw was to Zunino. You know what you'd like to see catchers do more? You don't see it that often. And that is actually put the foot on the plate or to the left of the foot instead of catching the ball out in front and having to swipe back. I think especially now you're seeing more runners slide the way Jaso did. Don't really have to worry about a collision if you're going to slide like that. But Jaso, this is like getting a triple. He hesitated. I don't know why, because that ball was not going to be caught by anybody, but a great slide, just kind of making the change to go to the right as he was en route scoring. And if he got banged up, which he did, remember on Thursday when he hit a couple of balls off his right leg, his right foot, but it's not slowed him down.
So 2-2 the count to Moss. And that one's hit hard but foul. Well, it seems like in the last couple of years we've seen more catchers do what Zunino did, and I wonder if that has anything to do with the posing play.
I don't have any doubt.
Yeah,
I don't have any doubt.
I mean, and they may be told to do that. I don't know.
And I think that's the biggest thing. I think they are being told, but again, if Zunino,
see, he could block the plate.
He could, absolutely. He could actually take away the running lane, and ideally you want to give a runner the running lane to be able to slide to, but if the guy's going to do that, he's taking it away and going beyond the lane that you're giving, and why not just force him to go off the plate? But I agree with you, Captain. I think catchers are being told, don't be a hero, don't try to block the plate. We'd rather have you available to play, and if you're a good hitter, even more so, swing the bat.
So you really sort of see both sides of the argument. Blake Beavan starts to throw.
But what you're seeing also, Cap, is the fact that base runners are doing what John Jaso did. If you don't have to worry about being blocked off the plate, you don't have to worry about, I mean, I don't even want to even think about what could happen if a catcher blocks and somebody's diving head first, because it's going to seriously hurt the runner, because there's nothing to protect them when you're airborne and trying to grab the plate with your hand.
And if the guys that are sliding like Jaso did, you have a lot more maneuverability with your hands than you do with your legs to try to reach back and touch home plate.
But imagine if the catcher just takes his leg and goes a half a foot or a foot to the left.
Somebody's fingers are going to get broken.
Well, yeah, and maybe even worse than that if they go head first and hit a catchers are big and they have the gear on, and if they're set, and you got 200+ pounds in a set position, and you're going head first like that, you're not going to upend them.
3-2 to Moss. And Moss with a shot to center. That's a base hit. Cespedes wheeling around third. He's going to score, and it's 4-2 A's.
Well, another great at bat by Brandon Moss. Foul him, just trying to move the runner. Finally gets a pitch that he can drive to left center. And Cat, the one thing he said, listen, I'm a power hitter, but I like to drive the ball. And while that was a single, he still drove the ball very hard to center field. And Cespedes got a great read. No chance to throw him out with his speed. He didn't even get it. He just a little peek back, and he knew the ball was going to be landing in front of Chavez in center field. That's a great at bat by Brandon Moss.
So still nobody on a walk, a double, and a single. And here's Donaldson, and he pops it up. Morris coming down the line, and Morris has it, and that's the first out.
Well, I mentioned Nate Fryman and what he did on Friday night. And ball was bobbled by Saunders and then tried to score. But watch how he goes around, tries to grab the plate, and he does with his left hand. But Zunino went after it because he knew the 6'8" was not coming in. And then yesterday, Chavez with the throw to the plate. This is Blanco, as Lowry tried to go around him and tag the plate. And Blanco went after him. But see how easily both catchers could just throw their body right in front of the runner because they didn't have to worry about the spikes. They didn't worry about getting run over.
And it also looked like in those two where an out was recorded or close plays, but the catcher got the ball a little bit quicker. Obviously, was able to get a tag down, but you're right, they can slide over and really push the guy off. But they have to have the ball in their hand before they can really do that.
But just picture this, though, instead of going after the ball or being in front, get back on the plate. And you know who the guys are. And Brandon Moss on Thursday in the extra inning game tried to run over the catcher, Stewart, and he did. but Stewart held on. But that was different. He had the ball and he was waiting for him. But with the slides and the way they're going around the catchers, it really helps the catchers to be a little bit more proactive in going after the runners instead of thinking they're going to be run over. Meanwhile, some clutch hitting in this inning again by the A's, and back-to-back innings against a guy who came in with a 179 earned run average. And this is the Thursday extra inning game. Coco pinch hitting a base hit to left field, but a play at the plate, perfect throw by Vernon Wells as Stewart caught the ball about the same time Brandon Moss hitting. And I still say, and you know, talking to the coaches after the game about the play kite, that when Stewart showed the ball, but it was same motion, and then dropped the ball, and Chili Davis was adamant. He said he didn't have full control of the baseball when he did make contact, or Moss made contact with him. He was a little bit dazed, thought there were 3 outs, started the dugout, and that was only the second. That's the difference of actually having the ball and anticipating or getting the collision.
And sometimes it makes a difference where the ball is coming from.
Yeah.
That throw is coming from left field.
That's a good point, because he could see the runner coming at him.
Smith hits one on the ground. Nice play by the shortstop. Ryan flips to second, and they get the out there. Heck of a play by Brendan Ryan.
But he was up the middle and had to go back to his right to backhand the ball and bobbled it, and then kind of flipped it and got enough on it for Franklin to stretch and get Brandon Moss at second base, and that is an excellent play. But it was the foot. Check the foot when he slides. See it in the air? And he was in the air as the ball was caught by Franklin. Excellent play by Ryan. Too good of a play. Smitty might have had a base hit other than the force at second occurred.
First pitch strike to Reddick, who has had a very good ball game, a triple, and then an RBI single. So the average over 200 at 201. Ibanez squeezes it, side retired. The A's get a walk, a double, and a single to score twice and take the lead. 4-2 after 5. League with 2 shutouts this year. Colon, Harang, Masterson. So Aaron Harang on that list. That's a surprise. Nothing against Aaron Harang, but it's not the name that would jump into your head. Say that's it. So Ibanez, Morris, and Bay against Bartolo Colon, who is rolling along after a rocky first couple innings.
Like that stuff? We have it on the plane, Kite.
Beautiful. Foul back, 1-2. Ibanez is popped to third, grounded to first. So he is 0 for 2 and 3 for 10 in the series. Bounced toward Sogard out of the grass. Out number 1. 12 in a row retired by Colon.
A nice little happy Father's Day gift here from daughters Nikki and Lindsay. How about that? All the way from Arizona.
Love those two kids. What do they got?
Number 38, Michael Morris.
I told you they were great daughters.
You like those?
Oh, that's the greatest chocolate of all time.
It's very nice. Very nice. How about that?
Toblerone.
That's it? Well, I know who's going to be having those on the plane to Texas, but that's good. I'll share. Delaire likes them too, evidently.
It's important to take care of your partner.
That's right. Well,
that's very sweet.
That's right. Thank you, Nikki, and grandsons, and from Scottsdale. Ooh, some beverages too.
It's nice that they put my name on that card. How about that?
Yeah. You know, you showed Bartolo. The thing about Bartolo Colon, you give him runs, he knows how to work them. And I'd still say that we talked about Felix yesterday, and Iwakuma looks like maybe he's finished. But if you don't get a pitcher early, now the Mariners had a chance, as you mentioned appropriately, to blow this game out in the second inning.
5 hits in the second inning.
And they had the bases loaded, 1 out. Seager, the line drive that you mentioned, Reddick makes a great play. Gets Morales on a fly ball to left field, and that's it. They leave the bases loaded.
Rosales cannot quite get it. That ball was hit hard. What do they say? Power hitters.
Yep.
The ball gets to the infield just a little bit quicker.
Well, and Rosie knew diving if he comes up with it, because Morris, I know he's the power hitter, still not running, but you're right. The top spin hit the ground, just shot through the infield. And even with Rosie's strong arm, catching the outfield grass, it would have thrown him out. It just shot past him. That's how close. Hit right off the edge. Remember, infielders typically use a shorter, smaller glove than an outfielder.
Here's Bay. First pitch to Jason Bay is a strike. He singled and scored in the second. Popped out in the third. So 2 for 7 in the series is Jason Bay. Signed a 1-year deal as a free agent. He's from the upper Northwest, that area. Donaldson backs up, has it, guns it to second for 1, back to first, and that's a double play. 5-4-3, and that's how the top of the 6th comes to an end. Bottom of the 6th coming up. It's 4-2 Athletics.
presented by NetSuite when the A's host the Cardinals. St. Louis Cardinals will be in town. For more information and tickets, call 877-493-BALL or visit OaklandAthletics.com/tickets.
That's a good one. Can't believe there's ever been a bobblehead made that's certainly not one that's doing the Bernie lean.
No.
Blake Bevan comes in when it's time for a change. Think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up. Your oil change tune-up and spa expert. So, young right-hander comes in. He saw him last year as a starter. May have seen him earlier this year as a starter. But he's working out of the bullpen in long relief now.
Remember what the Orioles did last year? Buck Showalter had kind of interchangeable parts with starters, relievers, and you see it start at the beginning of the season. He's in the bullpen at the end. And Iwakuma was in the bullpen, became a starter. So the A's were able to get to him in 5 innings.
And Bevan made 26 starts last year, and he won 11 games for the Mariners, but was not pitching terribly well this year in the starting rotation. Ryan to his right and throws out Rosales. Final numbers for Hisashi Iwakuma: 8 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. So the A's plenty of success today against the guy who came in with the second best ERA in the American League. He was not sharp. He walked 3, and he's a guy that does not walk very many people.
Well, you know, we started this game knowing it was going to be a pitcher's duel with 2 very stingy pitchers giving up runs and pitchers with success in getting wins.
Sogard has a double. That was in the 3rd inning, and a fly out to left field in the 4th inning.
Banjo Man brought his cape from Friday night, and down below is playing again.
Well, he's got a good audience today.
Yes, he does.
36,067.
That's 1,000 standing room because capacity is the 35,067. And Mike Selleck, when Mike Selleck announces the attendance early, you know it's sold out. And there's your standing room only crowd in the view quarters. Boy, that is a great sight. As Bob Melvin always says, when you have a big crowd, you want to play a great game, and the A's have done that in the first 6 innings.
Swing and a miss. Sogard strikes out. So he's now 1 for 3. 2 outs here in the bottom of the 6th inning. And we'll head to the top of the order. Coco Crisp.
This ball just float away from Sogard. Kind of a backdoor breaking ball that didn't really break that much, and off speed enough that it fooled Sogi.
Coco has grounded out 3 times. Once to short, once to second, and once to the pitcher. Outside. That game's a final. The Blue Jays 7 and the Rangers 2. So the Rangers have lost 6 in a row, and they've lost 9 out of their last 11.
They might be happy to have scored the 2 runs, considering they were being shut out 7-0.
In fact, they scored 2 in the 9th. They scored 2, and the game ended with the bases loaded. So a chance for the A's to pick up another game and move to 3 over the Rangers in the AL West. A little bit of work to do here in this game. Shot to left, and that's a hit. So Coco got ahead in the count, and Bevan laid one right in there. Hit number 9 for the A's.
You're right about getting the count in the favor, and then Devin, look at the location. Bell tie, and Coco took a couple of early pitches and then got a 2-0 center cut fastball. And now he has a chance to maybe try to get in the scoring position and stealing the base if that's what he decides to do. Remember, he part of the game a couple of nights ago as well, with at least limping to first base, and came out.
Jaso, how often do you say, Ray, well, the guy doesn't have any hits, but he's had an impact in this game? Well, he's walked 3 times.
Just looking at that, because usually the table setter is the first hitter to get on base. Coco makes his club go, but Jaso today, after Coco has made out the first 3 at bats, Jaso has walked, and now Coco gets a hit.
Good pitch there, and it's 0-2. The Yankees are leading the Angels 6-0 in the 9th. In fact, CC Sabathia is going for the shutout. He's out there in the bottom of the 9th trying to break the Yankees' 5-game losing streak.
Yeah, Cappy did that the start before he pitched against the A's. I think he ended up leading or winning 6-4, but pitched 9 innings because it's one of those he said he wanted to make sure the bullpen got the rest, and they did. And even better today, having the shutout in place.
Another 0-2 pitch to Jaso, and another foul ball. So Iwakuma goes just 5 innings. I think the son caught the foul ball because he's got the glove and he gave it to his dad. That's what I'm going with. That's what happened. Did he catch it clean? No, he picked it up.
It's all right. Kept the beverage in the hand and said,
"That's awesome. Nice job, Dad. You're a good egg." Jaso, what an at-bat, huh? 0-2, and he fouled off 3 or 4 pitches and then wraps a single into right.
A hanging curveball from Blake Bevan, and he stayed back. The thing that Jaso does so well, and of course walking 3 times is one thing, but then a couple of strikes and just jumps all over, stays on the hanging curveball, and that's why he's had great numbers throughout his career against right-handed pitchers. Not so great against lefties, but he has definitely done well against the right-handed pitchers hitting from the left side. Probably hoping that Cespedes hits one out instead of having to try to score from first on another double.
Single and the double for Cespedes. Also fly ball to left field. That one bounced towards Seager, who backhands, throws to second in time. Side retired. The A's strand a pair. We're through 6. It's a 4-2 Athletics lead.
Home right there. That's Graham Balfour, the real guy. And it's time now for the forward right choice. You know who started it? This guy. He started the Balfour Rage, and he got a chance to throw out the ceremonial first pitch today. His name is Will McNeil. And he did it in front of a camera. So go back out in right field and hope that Balfour gets in the game today, because if the score stays the same, he'll be there. He'll be ready. What were the gloves, the green gloves? What were those, Kay?
Not sure.
Because he took them off to throw the first pitch, but put them back on. I guess that's part of being the Raging Gnome.
Yep.
Hulk fist. Delaire knows all about that stuff. All right. So he started the Raging.
Zunino to lead it off, followed by Brendan Ryan, and then Endy Chavez here.
Nice follow-up there, partner.
Zunino with a single and a strikeout so far. Rosales grabs it, throws to first, and that's out number one.
Cap, in the first 2 innings, Colon had 5 fly ball outs. From the 3rd to that one, that is the 9th ground ball out. So he's back to his normal, the 2-seamers.
He veered off there for an inning or two, but he's back.
He is back. Flipping the ball in the air, just waiting. I think you said it best on his last start. The higher he throws the ball, the more relaxed he is.
That's right. If it's just just a little 2-inch toss in the air, well, then he's a little concerned.
Which he never is.
Nope. First pitch to Ryan. Bounce to short. Rosales has got to move a little bit to his left this time. Throws in time to get Ryan. And that's out number 2. So Adam Rosales moving around at short.
Say what you want about Rosales. He has a cannon. And he can throw. He gets some. This took a little bad hop as he went to his left and recovered. And then right over the top, a 4-seam fastball. At the feet, a little tangle because of the bad hop, but recovered nicely. And Ryan, like he didn't hurt himself, jumped to the bag, hit the front part of the bag.
So the leadoff man, Endy Chavez, steps up with 2 outs. He's had a good afternoon, 2 for 3, and a 2-run single. Stride call. That one tailing away, catches the outside corner. One ripped foul. The Angels have scored a run in that game. Sabathia could not finish it. In fact, he put a couple of runners on in the top of the 9th to make that the bottom of the 9th. So he's out, and the Angels are rallying in the bottom of the 9th, trailing 6-1. Heads up down that way.
Amazing. Bartolo Colon, 2 outs in the 7th inning, 94 pitches. Considering what he did, 56 in the first 3. Just remarkable.
Well, and he gave up a hit in the 6th inning and then got a double play ball right after that. He's retired 15 of the last 16 he has faced. Look at that after the 2nd inning. Rosales has this one. Side retired. 3 up, 3 down inning, and it's the 7th inning stretch from the Coliseum with the A's leading 4-2. California is brought to you by GoPro, the world's most versatile camera. GoPro, be a hero. 7th inning stretch here at the Coliseum. A's trail 2-0. They now lead 4-2. Sellout crowd this afternoon, and they have enjoyed it. So Moss to lead it off, followed by Donaldson and Smith. We certainly hope you're having an enjoyable Father's Day. Moss swings and misses at the first pitch. And action out in the bullpen, and Colon shaking hands, so you can do the math.
7 solid innings, and he'll tap on the shoulder of the skipper and takes his walk up. Well, this would be the matchup in Seattle next Friday night. Same as the A's will head to Texas for 4 games. Bartolo will rest those 4 in Arlington, Texas, and then be ready to go in Seattle on Friday night against the Mariners, and we assume Iwakuma.
So 1-2 to Moss.
This is with the A's bullpen, and let's just Doolittle getting loose. The way the game started for Bartolo Colon and the A's, to get 7 innings out of him, to finish as strongly as he did, couldn't be happy.
It's Doolittle that's warming up. Moss hits one high to left. Ibanez going back toward the corner, staggers a little bit, but he hangs in there and makes the catch. So that's out number 1 here in the bottom of the 7th. Yeah, good job, that a babe. Chili, nice job. Frankie, nice job, buddy. That boy. Nice job, security guard.
And of course, Ruben and Brian and Voos.
He's not done yet.
No, he's got the whole clubhouse to go through. They're all waiting at the door when he comes through. I've said it and we have seen it. If everybody had the attitude that Bartolo Colon does, to go out and flip the ball and clap for guys do well, and and you can understand why he says every day he pitches he's happy. I don't think he likes to sit around in between, but he does, and he'll be happy again next Friday when he takes on the Mariners in Seattle.
That's right. He's got a expense-paid trip to Las Colinas Resort and Spa in the Dallas area for 4 days. One and 1 to Donaldson, who's 1 for 3 in the game. He doubled and scored in the 4th inning. As we said, the Blue Jays beat the Rangers 7-2. Chien-Ming Wang pitched 7 innings of shutout baseball. How about that? As the Blue Jays just signed him. Used to be with the Yankees, Chien-Ming Wang. It's popped up just below us. Holland took the loss. Aaron Sebia homered. Moe Rasmus homered, and Adam Lind homered. Hold on. Like Bevan kicks, and the pitch to John Donaldson is a bit inside. Another breaking ball. Donaldson saw that one better.
But the one he saw very well was in the second and bat when he hammered the double to left center. Got to get the A's started with their scoring. So they had a double. They ended up scoring him thanks to Seth Smith's double behind him.
Donaldson rips one to center and deep. Endy Chavez is going back, and that baby is gone.
Just when you think people say, well, he's starting to struggle a little bit. How about a high fastball jump all over it? And the last home run he hit, the big one, the slam against Chris Sale in Chicago, and jumps on a high fastball from Blake Bevan and crushes it. Another good at bat, fouling off a couple with a couple of strikes and over that favorite sign in left center.
So home run number 10 for Donaldson. He now has 43 RBIs. Smith to right.
Wow.
And that baby is gone. Second dead, back to back.
Boy, that was pretty. You talk about crushing one, and why not? It is Hyundai Sunday, and Seth Smith unloaded, and this is second deck. He knew it was gone, just how deep, how far it was going to go. Fourth time this season back-to-back. Man, was that a shot. Second deck. How about in a series, 3-game series, 2 players go upper deck, second deck, as Chris Young did it Friday night, and then Seth Smith this afternoon. That'll get the buzz going.
So Smith hits his 6th. He's got a couple of RBIs, a couple of extra base hits. Reddick trying to make it 3 in a row with that swing.
Well, I couldn't ask for a more perfect pitch for a lefty, and Seth Smith. Let me hit the double in the same inning that Donaldson hit his double. Smitty brought him in and then brought himself in on this one.
Reddick rips one to right, and that's a base hit. Reddick is 3 for 4. 13 hits now for the Athletics.
Carl Willis, probably a trip to settle him down a little bit, but Josh Reddick, how about a 3-hit game, and slider coming right into his swing. Well, his defense this afternoon, and now swinging the bat well. 3 hits. Take it. That is the former closer. He's up in the 7th inning.
So Bevan's going to stay in the game. So Rosales will hit. Adam is 0 for 2 with a sacrifice. And the first pitch, a slider, is outside. Doolittle has warmed up plenty, so he's ready to go. And there's another hit. Line drive single to left field. So it's gone. Fly out to left, home run, single, single here in the bottom of the 7th inning.
Exit. And the elevation of the pitches by Blake Bevan is getting him in trouble. We've seen the A's pitchers when they've struggled, they've elevated fastballs. That's what happens. And Eric Wedge is going to make the move.
So when it's time for a change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up, your oil change tune-up and smog experts.
On Comcast Sportsnet California is brought to you by Xfinity, home of the most live sports, and by Toyota. Do the math and save at your local Toyota dealer.
A's got back-to-back home runs from Donaldson and Smith in this inning to extend the lead to 6-2. Tom Wilhelmsen comes in. Been the closer for most of the year, but really struggling as of late. So he comes in with 2 on, 1 out to face Sogard. Ray, the Anaheim Angels, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, have scored 5 times in the bottom of the 9th inning. They're still batting. Yankees leading 6-5 with 2 outs, and Rivera is facing Mike Trout with 2 runners on. How about that?
Rivera give up the other ones?
He's given up 3.
Wow. So a runner at second for a broken bat base hit by Trout.
2 outs. 3 hits Rivera has given up. Runners go, and the ball's tapped slowly towards short. Ryan bare hands. He's got no place to go, and everybody's saved. So it'll be a hit for Sogard. He's 2 for 4. 5 hits in the inning.
Well, big jumps by both runners, and they're taking off, and why not? And Ryan, no place to go, thinking that maybe Rosales with his aggressiveness will round the bag. But Gallego stopped him, and he got back easily.
Here's Coco. First pitch. Here's a strike. One for 4 for Coco Crisp. He's got a couple of grand slams in his career. Watches that big Williamson breaking ball drop low. 1-1 the count. So Reddick at third, Rosales at second, Sogard at first. He's trying to just bust it completely open here in the 7th inning. That one's there for strike with a fastball. 96 miles an hour from Wilhelmsen.
He can get it up closer to 197, 98, but maybe a little frustration also, considering he's not in the closer role.
There's that breaking ball, and Coco takes it to even the count at 2-2. Close pitch outside, and the count is full.
So he got it.
He got it. He struck out Albert Pujols with the bases loaded.
Wow.
Huh. What a finish. The Yankees had to get the win. That's low, and the A's are going to get another run as Reddick trots home. Give Coco Crisp the RBI and give the A's a 7-2 lead.
You know, Sean Doolittle, even with his lead, is still loose, and he looks like he's still going to come in. He is kind of standing on the mound now in the bullpen, but remember, Bartolo Colon left as soon as he finished the top of the 7th. All this scoring happening with Doolittle, who was getting heated up to come in, at least with a 2-run lead at the time, but now it's been extended. The old saying, he's loose, bring him in.
Jaso, 3 walks and a single. Not a bad time to be a hitter. The count is 2-0. The infield's in. The bases are loaded, and the pitcher is struggling.
He had 3 walks and a base hit, and he's trying to duplicate what Seth Smith did earlier, and that was 4 walks and a single. That happened with the Yankees, so that's a rarity. 5 plate appearances, 4 walks and a hit, but Smitty's already done it. John Jaso ahead of the count.
2-0 pitch, good swing.
Foul
just below us to our left.
Great catches this afternoon.
The catch got everybody in one section standing up, so it must have been pretty darn good. Two and one. Not close. 3-1. Rosales, Sogard, Crisp are your runners. So plenty of speed on the bases. Foul back. So now it's 3-2. A's have scored 3 times here in the bottom of the 7th inning. Jaso to left field. Ibanez over there. He's got it. Rosales tags. Throw to the plate. Cut off. And it's another run for the A's. They lead 8-2.
It's amazing watching the runners at third, how much they depend on the third base coach when there's a fly ball that's hit. Rosales got back to the bag, looked at Mike Gallego. Mike Gallego is the voice that says go or don't go. Go, don't go, fake. But Raul Ibanez, the thing about Mike Gallego, all good third base coaches know the strengths of the outfielder's arms. And Rosales sliding as he was safe easily as the throw cut off by the third baseman Seager.
So Cespedes steps in. 8 runs and 15 hits now for the Athletics. So that offense that was struggling a little bit as of late, we talked about it early in the game. Well, that's been taken care of.
You're right, and what's great is that miscue early with a double play turn because circumstances of the third out being recorded before the run scored. It's a moot point.
Well, the A's had 3 hits in the 4th, 2 in the 5th, 2 in the 6th, 5 here in the 7th.
And 3 scoring opportunities, 3 innings, crooked numbers in all 3.
Cespedes hits it hard toward third. Seager has it. He'll go the short way side, retired. 4 runs on 5 hits for the A's, so they have indeed busted it open, and it started with Donaldson and Smith going back to back. 8-2 A's lead as we head to the 8th. California is brought to you by Cache Creek Casino Resort. Red, white, and you Jeep giveaway. Visit CacheCreek.com for details. So the A's score 4 times in the bottom of the 7th to bust it open. It's 8-2, top of the 8th. And Nick Franklin's going to lead it off, and we got a new pitcher when it's time for change. Think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up, your oil change tune-up and smog expert. So Sean Doolittle comes in. He pitched in game 1 of the series. He faces Franklin, Seager, and Morales. And the first pitch is a fastball high. Chris Young is now in the game in center field. The Mariners won on Friday night 3-2. Doolittle came in and he pitched the top of the 9th inning through 24 pitches. Did not give up any runs. And it's 3-0.
3 high fastballs, and of course Franklin might be thinking, trying to get on base. Almost the high fastball hitters cannot catch up and make contact.
that one in for a strike with a 91-mile-an-hour fastball as Doolittle kind of eased it in there. Outside, he walked him.
Swing for the fences with the new Home Run Derby mobile game from MLB.com. Available on iPhone and iPad. Download free today. Free? Do it today.
So here's Seager. Seager is 1 for 3. And that one catches the outside corner first time. The Royals beat the Rays today 5-3. So Kansas City stays hot. Royals have won 10 out of their last 12. An interesting note from that game, or right after the game, the Tampa Bay Rays announced that they're calling up Will Myers, who is the super prospect that they acquired from Kansas City in the James Shields trade. He has never been to the big leagues, but he is ranked as one of baseball's best prospects. He's an outfielder, and he's going to be in the big leagues. Will Myers for the Rays.
And the clock starts a little bit late.
Yeah.
The old service time clock. Not that that didn't affect Longoria because he signed the long-term deal. Sometimes that is an issue, but sometimes also they say, let's just get him here.
Well,
Pep, how's about this interesting? This is the Raging Gnome Grant Balfour Day.
yeah.
Now, this game at this point is not a safe situation, but last time Grant Balfour pitched was an inning on Thursday in the 18-inning game. He pitched the 9th inning.
That's right.
He has not pitched since then. So does he need work? We shall see. Remember game 162 last year when the A's had a commanding lead? The bullpen phone stopped working as he was up, and he said, I'm going to pitch the 9th inning. I'm going to be on the mound. So Will said this is much different than the final game of the season, and especially with division clinching. But we shall see if he does come in. And it would simply be because he needs work, not to try to satisfy a sellout crowd on his giveaway day. But that's something that's factored into. Bullpen guys getting on Seth Smith that those sunglasses must be on the top of the cap, and or do you need sunglasses?
So here's Kendrys Morales. Morales is 0 for 3. Tigers beat the Twins today 5-2 in Minnesota. Pfister got his 6th win, and Torrey Hunter hit his 300th career home run. So congratulations on that. Terrific milestone for Torrey Hunter.
And congratulations, but Kipe, say what you want about Torrey Hunter. If he's an Angel, still with the Angels, it's probably a different club this year.
They're a better team.
Yeah. It's totally different. He is such a leader, does a great job on the field.
I couldn't agree with you more, and that's a nice double play. I think we would both agree on that as well. 5-4-3. Morales hits into the double play, and that will do it for the Mariners. Steelers. Bartolo Colon a little shaky early, but then he settled in, and Bartolo Colon ends up throwing 7 terrific innings. And for the A's, a little bit of a slow start against Iwakuma, but you could tell that the right-hander for the Mariners was not sharp, and at some point the A's were going to get to him, and they did. And then they blew the game open in the 7th inning. Donaldson and Smith go back-to-back, a couple of long ones. They scored 2 more times in that 7th inning, and that pretty much busted it open. So it's the bottom of the 8th, and the A's leading this one 8-2. So A's had some opportunities early, and they didn't cash in, and you always get a little concerned at that point. But then 2 in the 4th, 2 in the 5th, 4 in the 7th. 15 hits total for the Athletics.
I think also, Cap, that Bartolo Colon did not get frustrated enough saying, you know, there are times that I'm sure pitchers say, well, offensive opportunities don't get them. But Colon, nothing ever bothers him, and he settled down. And you look at his last innings, the last 5 innings, he had 11 ground ball outs compared to 2 fly ball outs during that same period of time. So he got his sinker working and got the ground ball outs and held the Mariners down.
But when it's time for change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up, your oil change tune-up and smog experts. Carter Capps, impressive young right-handed reliever for the Seattle Mariners. And that one's blasted to right, down the line, and that baby is gone. Another long one. This time it's Moss, and it's 9-2.
You throw the slider in his wheelhouse, this is what happens to it. Right in the middle of the plate, and Brandon Moss with a couple of strikes. A great at bat when he singled to left center on a 3-2 fastball. Keep the helmet on the head and take the tour around the bases, and just how far would it go? Not the secondary like Smitty, but a great long shot on a slider inside part of the plate.
If you keep throwing it there, he's going to keep hitting it there.
That's right. I thought you were going to say if they build it, then he will come.
If you keep dropping it on the
yeah, it kind of sounded like the voice, you know?
Exactly.
If you keep throwing it there, he will
keep hitting it there. Diving play by Franklin is thrown to first, and they get Donaldson. Sensational play by Nick Franklin, the young second baseman. And Donaldson, pretty sure he had himself a base hit one way or the other.
Well, he hit it hard, but Franklin, a very good play. Did he hurt himself diving? As he made a strong throw to Mike Morris, his first baseman. Right hand, maybe. Thumb on his right hand, but you know the old saying, he's a kid. Yeah, it's something on his right hand when he landed on his right hand. Morris is trying to find out if he needs some assistance, but yeah, check his right hand. He's flinching in. Looked like he has thumb under just a little bit, maybe.
So here's Smith. 2 for 4, double home run. Couple of runs scored, couple of RBIs.
Oh, well, what a great shot. Right there. And that's called SS, sweet spot.
X-Mo. Thank you.
Every time I see that, I just can't help but be reminded of the great Hall of Famer, the great Stan Musial. And Dow Maxwell asking. It's Stan, you know, Stan showed him where he was hitting the baseball all the time, that sweet spot. And Maxie said, well, what about if you hit it down the label? He said, I never do it.
I don't know what that feels like.
You can look at my bat and be same spot, and that's what Brandon Moss just did. And that's what happens when you make the contact, hitting at that location of the bat. That's how far it travels.
The guys whose bats have marks all over the place.
That's right.
That's probably about a 219 hitter.
That's right. That's why Ichiro puts his bats up on the rack in the dugout, and you could see his bats when he puts them up on the rack, that you could see the spots right in the sweet spot of the bat.
Big afternoon for Reddick. 2 singles, a triple, an RBI, and a run score.
We talk so often about the great cut fastball. Mariano Rivera broke 2 bats here on Thursday, and the A's won the game. He didn't get the loss, but to think of some of the great hitters who always hit the ball in the sweet part of the bat, if they could do that with a cutter, if they had broken some bats, you know, with because I don't think a cut fastball is how many years it's been in existence. The cut, the splitter, but 2 pitches. I'm glad I didn't have to try to hit.
I would say that there always seems to be a pitch for each decade.
Exactly.
I guess the 80s was probably the splitter, right?
Yeah, exactly. Supposedly, Roger Craig, when he managed the Tigers and did camps, from what I heard, was trying to teach the changeup, and he'd just tell the kids, take the index and the middle finger, just spread them a little bit. And if you don't put as much, and more you spread the fingers, the less velocity. Yeah. Well, you keep spreading them, then you get the split finger fastball.
Would you say that there's more changeups thrown now than there was 20 years ago?
You know, in the
National League,
exactly. In the National League now, because you have players going back and forth, but I think the turbo changeup, he throws 90 miles an hour. That's Felix Hernandez. That's a 90-mile-an-hour changeup.
I guess I'm just talking about more than just the basic change, you know. That one's hit to right center, and that's hit a ton, and that baby's gone. The A's are launching balls out of the Coliseum. Home run number 4 on the afternoon.
Well, you know, there's one happy young man. Great day defensively, swinging the bat. He has a triple, couple of singles, and caps it with a 3-1 fastball off Mr. Capps, and he crushes it to right center. Just his 4th, but I think Josh Reddick is healthy. The wrist has to be feeling great, and this ball is crushed over the Xfinity sign. Look, 2nd time this year, 4 home runs in a game.
So 4 hits, heads up, right off the facing of the radio booth next door. So 4 hits for Reddick, 2 singles, a triple, and a homer. Probably the best offensive performance by Reddick in this 2013 season.
Mike Selleck said 3rd time with 4 hits, going back to last year in May.
Ryan grabs it in the air, side retired, and the A's 2 more solo home runs, one by Moss, one by Reddick. So the A's have hit 4 home runs today, and they lead this game. It's now 10-2 as we head to the 9th.
responsibility of the Oakland Athletics and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Athletics Investment Group, LLC.
So big offensive outburst by the Athletics this afternoon. 10-2 they lead with 10 runs and 17 hits. Well, Ibanez leading it off. New pitcher for the Athletics, it's Dan Otero. Busy guy. He's pitched in each game in this series. When it's time for change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up, your oil change, tune-up, and smog expert. So Otero comes in. Called up earlier this week after pitching extremely well for the Sacramento River Cats. Ibanez is 0 for 3. And this one's popped up. Jaso's back, should have a play, fights it a little bit, and he's got it. Never an easy play for a catcher. He makes the catch in foul territory. So that's out number 1. A's post-game live coming up after the ball game. We're going to have a pinch hitter for the Mariners.
Your attention, please.
Carlos Trienfeld.
Number 1, Carlos Trienfeld.
Trienfeld, a young infielder. So he hits here in the 9th inning. Otero's first pitch is a strike. Probably a good chance that Otero faced Trienfeld in the Pacific Coast League at some point this year. That one could roll fair. Could roll fair. I was thinking about it for a little bit. Otero jumps ahead in the count, 0-2. All games are final now. As we told you, Texas Rangers lost their 6th consecutive game, and that's where the A's are headed. So it'll be interesting to kind of get the vibe around the Rangers, who have lots of trouble scoring runs.
Well, they may be just talking how great it was to score 2 runs in the 9th inning.
Yeah. When was the last time you heard anybody say that about a Texas Rangers offense?
And carrying it forward, while the A's today pounding out 17 hits in their 10 runs.
Trienfeld strikes out, and that is out number 2 here in the 9th inning. Well, join us tomorrow when the A's open up that series down in Arlington. We'll have it game 1 for you right here on Comcast Sportsnet California. Dan Straley and Nick Tepich, so a couple of young right-handers. Coverage begins at 4:30 with A's pregame live. And remember, you get complete A's coverage every night on Sportsnet Central and CSNCalifornia.com. So Straley and Tepich. First pitch is a strike. This is Alex Liddy, it looks like. Liddy hitting for Bay. It looks like, Ray, the A's will face Yu Darvish on Tuesday night in game 2 of that series.
Yeah.
Justin Grimm on Wednesday. Josh Lindblom on Thursday. Ground ball towards second. Sogard ranges to his left. That should be the ball game, and it is the ball game. So the A's have an offensive explosion this afternoon, and they salvage the final game of this 3-game series, but they finish the homestand with a 4-2 record, and the A's now have a 3-game lead over the Texas Rangers in the AL West. A's now 42-29. Final score this afternoon: the A's 10, the Mariners 2. Hope you had a great Father's Day. You've been watching A's baseball on Comcast Sportsnet California. Don't go away. A's postgame live with Scott Reese and Bip Roberts starts right now.